Lynn.
This meeting is being recorded.
Wonderful. Welcome, everyone. We are recording the session, and we will post the recording for those who come in late or want to see it again. So that'll be available. Welcome, everyone, to the session. We'll wait just a minute. I can see that there were admitting some participants. We'll wait just a moment to get folks admitted, and then we will begin. Thanks everybody for spending time with us today on this exciting opportunity. I want to say welcome to everyone who's joining us now. I can see we have some more participants joining us as I speak. Happy to have you here. We'll get started in just a moment. We are recording the session, so that'll be available after. I see Lindsay's here. Oh, there's Elsa. I'm admitting her. Wonderful. Well, thanks everyone. Happy to have you. Oh, I'm seeing more people, and maybe we'll just wait another moment. Let a few more people come in and join us, and then we'll get started. And Elsa, whenever you're able to share screen, you're welcome to do that, and we'll have that ready for when we get started in a moment.
Can everyone see that?
Yes, I can see it. Can everyone else see it? Can anyone not see that? Looks like folks can see it. Great.
Hey,
And we will have,
one second.
oh, sorry. Yep, sorry, go ahead. Did someone have a question? Thought I heard a voice.
Steph,
All right,
if you wouldn't mind, just let me know when you're ready for me to advance.
Oh, absolutely, will do. And I'm still admitting folks, but I do think we'll get started to be respectful of everyone's time. And then we'll have time at the end for questions as we go. So welcome everyone. Well, my name is Stephanie Lukash. I'm Assistant City Manager and ARPA Administrator at the City of Kenmore. And we're here to talk about a really exciting affordable housing development proposal. And this is an applicant briefing session that is being recorded and will be available afterwards. We'll also have the slide deck available after. And we will be creating an FAQ document with questions that are asked and answered at this session. So you'll have that available later. So I want to start by saying thank you to everyone in attendance. We really appreciate you joining us today and learning about this opportunity and joining us on this affordable housing journey. I want to show on the screen, you can see approximately with the arrow where this property is located. So right in the core of downtown Kenmore. If you're not familiar, the Kenmore City Hall is to the left in the kind of foreground of this picture, and then the town square and the hangar are just beyond the building here in the picture. That's like Washington you see in the distance. And this property is right on 522, right in the heart of our downtown core. And we're really excited. It's a city-owned property. We're excited to tell you more about it and about the opportunity to partner with us and bring affordable units right into the core of our downtown and to help us create a vision for the future. This project's a key part of it. So I wanted to start by just saying thank you to everybody, and happy to have you here with us. So with that, we'll go to the next slide. Thank you, Elsa. So we're here because the number one priority of the Kenmore City Council is affordable housing. And I just want to, we would be remiss if we didn't thank them for their leadership and vision. And you can see all of their priorities for 2021 and 2022 are listed there, but this is their top priority. And we're deeply committed as a city to this effort. And we know that affordable housing is a crisis in our region, and Kenmore wants to be part of the solution. And this opportunity is one of the ways that we want to do that. We formed a working group last summer, and a regional coalition for housing. Lindsay and Elsa have been part of this effort from the beginning. We're so grateful for the partnership. You'll hear from Lindsay later in this presentation, but we've been working on this hard since last summer, identifying properties, narrowing the list, really thinking through how we will bring this to fruition. And we're so delighted to be at the stage that we are right now. We have a University of Washington capstone team on board to help us. These are 4 graduate students who are equally committed to affordable housing. We have a couple of them on the call. Thank you to them for joining us and helping take notes. And this is an affordable housing project. So we want to be really intentional and clear in this conversation today that all of the units in this proposal we envision are affordable. And we want some of the units to be at the 30% AMI level. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that in the remaining slides, but want to just say that right up front, that's what our council's intention is to help tackle the affordable housing crisis, and in particular, providing some units for those at the lowest levels of AMI. And as part of the city of Kenmore's commitment, Kenmore is committing $5 million in upfront resources to this project between donating the land and $3.2 million in American Rescue Plan Act funds that are going to be used for this project. We're going to hear from Arch, as they're also making a $3 million commitment to this project. So we have a starting public investment of $8 million that we're really thrilled about. And we want that to be clear to everyone listening that that's because it's our council's number one priority. And we are really working hard as a city to make this project happen. So with that, let's learn more about the property. I'm going to turn it over to Brian Hampson, and he's going to share more.
Thanks, Stephanie.
Mm-hmm.
Hello, everybody, and thanks for joining us today. Really exciting to be able to introduce you to this property and run through this stuff with you. My name is Brian Hampson. I'm the Development Services Director for the City of Kenmore, and I'm part of the working group that has been working on it for the last year or so. But the property itself is located at 67th Avenue and Bothell Way, which is pretty close to the bullseye, what we call the bullseye of our downtown. And so this is really smack dab in the middle of our downtown, and really in good proximity to other resources. You have the library that's directly next door. You have shopping that's a block away. You have the post office just another block away. And in the future, there's also a potential for a King County passenger ferry at the Lake Point site that may be in the shipping channel. And so there could be a better pedestrian opportunity for that side of the highway once that Lake Point site is developed in the next couple of years. In addition to the King County passenger ferry, there's going to be a Sound Transit bus rapid transit line that'll come through the site, and the westbound lane will be have a bus stop pretty close to directly in front of the property's location. The property we had appraised recently at $1.89 million, and so that was a little bit of due diligence that we had to do in order to do this work. But it's just really important to point out how walkable this project is and this location is to all the other amenities in the area. Next slide. So over the last 10 years or so, the city has really invested money into this property, and also private developers. The city bought the 11 acres across the street from City Hall in the early 2000s, and really looked for and solicited developers to participate in the downtown redevelopment of Kenmore. You can see the City Hall in the background of what used to be the Kenmore Village, an old dilapidated shopping center across the street. And what we did is we solicited developers who had put in over $200 million into our downtown. And Next slide. So here's a shot of what it looks like today in all the new downtown residential buildings, commercial buildings, mixed use. The city saved a portion of the town square for ourselves in what we call the hangar building. So it's a community building with a coffee stand in it that the community can actually access and use on a daily basis. And so that's still considered public property. The area out in front of it is a public park. We call it the town square. And so there's a fountain out there and some other amenities that are associated with it. Part of the requirement for the developers when they redeveloped this area was to provide a sit-down restaurant. And so right across the town square from the hangar building, there is a Stoop Brewery, a sit-down restaurant that's located there as well. Next slide. So as I mentioned, the property is located on 67th and Bothell Way. Currently, it's vacant, but we are temporarily using it as a public works site, location site. The city of Kenmore recently brought in public works in-house a couple years ago. And so we are in the process of buying another property and building a public works site. And so the crew is temporarily using this location. But that's okay because we understand that that's a temporary location. So if needed, we'll be able to find them a different location in the interim. The property used to be a gas station way before the city bought it back in the 90s, I do believe. But the property did go through the environmental cleanup and did receive a no further action letter from Ecology. The zoning for it is downtown commercial. And so if you were to look into the zoning code and go specifically off what the zoning code would allow for density uses and parking, it wouldn't necessarily be what we're looking for. We're looking for approximately 80 to 100 units. So that's a little bit denser than what our code allows. We're looking at the flexibility with the parking, so we want it to be parking to be right for the project. We don't want to overpark it. We don't want to underpark it. We want to understand what the needs are for the parking and take those into consideration. That it's pretty much with all of the zoning requirements. As you get into this and start to put together your plans and your proposals, and if you start to see some kind of roadblock with the zoning code, note that as a potential area that needs flexibility, but design it the best way that you see that it will work. We can have those discussions later about the zoning requirements and whatnot. What we have in place is a development agreement. And so the development agreement is what's going to allow us that flexibility to deviate from the code requirements. There's specific code requirements you cannot deviate from, which is obviously fire code and critical area codes, but there aren't any critical areas on the property, so that shouldn't be an issue. The city and Arch have been doing some due diligence to get this teed up for you guys, the potential developer, on some work that needed to be done beforehand. And some of those that we're working on or have completed, one was the appraisal. We're also working on a phase 1 analysis. We've already started some of that work, and we have it teed up to be go into the phase 2 if needed. We're working with the geotech right now to do some geotechnical assessment of the soils to see what kind of soils we're dealing with and how that can accommodate your project. And since it was a gas station, and actually there's an old laundromat near the post office that had some contamination from that use, and that contamination is still in the ground. It's not, as we know, as the plume in the ground hasn't reached this property, but just for our benefit and your benefit too, we are having them do an assessment of the contaminants in the soil to make sure that that plume hasn't reached this site. The last I heard, it hadn't crossed 181st yet. So it is, that laundromat is being cleaned up, and it was expected to be finished being cleaned up in the next couple of years or so. But another pre-development work that we've worked on is a market study. So we've commissioned a broker, a local broker, to put together a market study. So that may help you too with when you're trying to figure out what the different uses are and mixes of units and stuff could the project could lend itself towards. Next slide. Okay, with that, I am going to turn it back over to Stephanie.
Actually, Lindsay Masters is going to cover the slide. So Lindsay, go ahead.
Sure. Well, I'll just briefly introduce myself. I'm Lindsay Masters. I'm the Executive Director of ARCH. And for those of you who don't know about ARCH, we are a coalition of East Side cities that work together on creating affordable housing. We've been doing this for many years. One of the key ways that we accomplish this is by pooling local resources to help to fund projects. And so we're really excited that we have this opportunity for direct partnership with City of Kenmore. Last year we had a funding round that left us with some remaining funds at the end of the year, approximately $3 million in funding. And so this sort of coincidence of timing presented itself and gave us an opportunity to set aside approximately $3 million for this project. As Stephanie already alluded to, this supplements the city's commitment of ARPA funding that's already being dedicated to the project for a total commitment when you combine that with the value of the project of $8 million, over $8 million. I'd be happy to answer any questions later about some of the terms that come along with our funding, but the process that I'll get into a little bit into some of the next slides is that we typically develop a final set of funding terms. So the terms that you may propose in your proposal that would then get approved through our advisory board process. Our terms are generally very flexible. This is local dollars without any statutory requirements attached to them other than to serve our goal of creating affordable housing. We can go to the next slide. So the RFP obviously has a lot more detail on this, but this is a high-level snapshot of some of the key project goals. As Stephanie mentioned, we want this whole project to be affordable. Right now, we think that means at a minimum, every unit has to be affordable under 80% AMI. We are going to be soliciting a market study that will help us inform if there's any other kind of distinction below 80% AMI that we would be imposing as a ceiling. But generally, we want to be well below 80% AMI, and we especially want to make sure there's a significant number of units below 30% AMI. To get all of this, we know that as with all affordable housing projects, we have to figure out how to do this cost efficiently. $8 million is a lot of funding, but we know it's not necessarily that much funding when you're building a new building. And to do that, we want to see maximize density on the site. We also, and this was a key thing for the city, want to see a partnership for ground floor space that really supports the community, and that can be not just the residents of the building, but the broader community at large. There's a very flexible definition of community supportive. There's some ideas that are included in the RFP, but we're really welcoming your creativity and your innovation to figure out what that means and what partners might be a good match for the site. As Brian mentioned, a lot of what it takes to achieve those goals means that we've got to work through a development agreement, and so we're teed up to work through that process with you. And we expect that there's going to be less parking than the current code requires at this point. That would likely be important to be able to maximize the capacity of the site, and particularly take advantage of the bus rapid transit that's coming soon. Next slide. So this is the timeline. It's a fast timeline, and I want to emphasize we're excited that it's a fast timeline and that the City Council here has been really clear that they want to see affordable housing be done quickly, not take 10 years. And so we have, marching orders to make sure the process moves swiftly. That means, we are not waiting for all of the phase 1 and the geotech reports to come back to us to put out the RFP. We wanted to get the process going quickly and really invite a partner who is ready to move forward in partnership with the city. The timeline is generally we would have a proposal selected in May, and then Arch would be able to go back to our advisory board to finalize that funding recommendation, as I mentioned, to work out the specific terms that attach to that funding. And then that would allow us to be able to come back to the Kenmore City Council in June to receive their final approval for the sale of the property or the transfer of the property. This timeline was also set up to be able to accommodate subsequent funding applications should that be necessary, and we would certainly not be surprised if that is necessary, and have been in communication with the Department of Commerce and with King County about this project being a really significant opportunity and priority for us. So they're aware of this, and we're already starting our kind of early conversations about the upcoming funding round and our general coordination. All that aims at a goal of actually trying to get construction started as early as 2023, and hopefully that is achievable when you have partners that are all committed to that. And I think that takes us to questions.
I see Troy has his hand up. Go ahead, Troy.
So first I want to say I thought the RFP was written very, very well. So thank you for all of the specific detail. That was encouraging that it was well thought out. Because it is a tight timeline, can we talk about what the city is willing to do to fast track permitting approvals and things of that nature?
Sure. Do you want me to speak on that, Stephanie?
That'd be great. Go ahead, Brian.
So as part of the development agreement, there's going to be items that get identified that will need to be done. And one of them will be an expedited permit review. And so we'll need to be talking to the developer what that looks like. And that'll be part of an addendum or an attachment to the development agreement. So we do understand that there's going to need to be some expedited permit review, and are going to be able to meet those expectations when we find out what they are.
Thank you.
Al, did you have a question?
Well, actually, I was just going to comment just what great work this is, and it's just as a partner of the cities, as a utility provider, I just want to applaud the efforts of everybody involved in this. Just really great work. It's just wonderful to see. Thank you so much.
Oh, thanks, Al. That means a lot to us. You're a strong partner of the city, and we appreciate you. What other questions? Elizabeth, go ahead.
Hi, yeah, just echoing the support of the city of Kenmore for this. This is really exciting. But I'm wondering about public opinion around the project, just seeing other projects on the east side facing a lot of resistance from neighbors, et cetera. I'm just curious to know if there's been like a temperature check on the surrounding neighborhood and what neighbors are feeling about this.
That's a great question. I love it. I mean, the city owns the property, and the the city council has been really clear about their top priority being affordable housing and wanting to move on that. And they hear from their constituents, all the time. Our residents we have a wonderful community, and people are not shy about sharing their thoughts and views. And I think this is about our commitment to affordable housing, and the council saying we're moving forward with this. It's important, and we'll absolutely listen to our community and their thoughts, and they're welcome to come and continue to share their thoughts. But this is what we feel is the highest and best use of this property at this time because of the crisis of affordable housing, and we want to move and build units and kind of take it into our own hands a little bit, right? That we're trying to do our part as a city. I can't speak on, for the council members, but I know that they have been really intentional and thoughtful about that. And I know we have a lot of people in our community who support affordable housing and want to see more of it. And, we have lots of opinions about that this is too important, and the council has been really clear they want to move it forward. So, great question.
I will just add real quick too that the direction to include extremely low-income housing in the project did come from conversations with the council, and certainly in internal conversations with the work group, we talked about the entire gamut of potential housing models that could be cited here, and the gut check about what's going to be community reception, and there were no restrictions that anybody wanted to place on what could be built here.
Good to hear. Thank you.
Yeah, great question. And I see Martin's hand. Martin, go ahead.
Thank you, Martin from Bridge Housing. Yeah, I just want to echo everybody's applause. I think there's a lot of work that's gone behind this, so we really appreciate it. Matching up all the funding and doing all the due diligence on the site already. I wanted to ask a question about the ground floor use that the city is hoping to see here. I saw that you had a few examples like a community center, childcare spaces. I was wondering if there is something that the city would prioritize over something else, or whether there's been any community feedback on something specific that they would like to see.
I love that question. And we did have some conversations with community partners who, we have really strong community partners and we appreciate them. And so we made a decision to prompt some thinking by putting a couple of ideas in and having those partners willing to talk to anyone who would like to connect with them. I'm happy to make those connections and see what comes of it. But we're not, we want you to be creative. We want this is public benefit, right? So thinking about what do each of you think might make the most sense, to what would be the best community use of that community space. You're not limited to those options, but we know that those are, we have strong partnership and belief in what we're doing with those partners that were mentioned in the RFP. But we welcome other ideas too. So we just we wanted to prompt it because we wanted to also show that we've been thinking about this for a while, and those conversations mattered, and we wanted to make sure, to prompt that those are the kinds of things we're thinking about, and we invite continued thinking on what that might look like. Great question. Thanks, Martin. Oh, Sarah has her hand up. Go ahead, Sarah. Oh, you're muted. We can't hear you.
Hi, Sarah Gustafson. I am a resident, actually, of Bothell. My question is, what kinds of guidelines does Kenmore have for the developers about choosing the people who would live in the development? Because it seems like there would be a lot of demand to live in these great apartments.
I can try to take a crack at responding to that. So I think what we're contemplating from the city's point of view is what's typical for affordable housing, and that's some kind of covenant that restricts the eligibility to people of a certain income. And then, beyond that, sort of up to each provider and their property management partner to determine what is their method of marketing to fill the units, and what other kind of screening criteria might they require, or might some of their investors require to do that. But it's I don't think as a city or as Arch, we're looking to impose a lot of requirements on that selection process. We generally would be wanting to follow the best practices for each type of housing. Does that answer your question?
Thank you. Yes, I'm hearing a lot of flexibility and people can put together what makes sense.
Yes, and we do know the demand is huge. We've have, other projects that have been opening in the last couple of years and have thousands of applicants for a much smaller number of available apartments. So we understand it's a challenging process to navigate.
What other questions do you have for us?
I have one, Stephanie. This is Al again.
Hi.
Hi. Are there other opportunities for the city in other areas already identified, or is this kind of the flagship model for the city right now?
Go ahead, Lindsay. Do you want to answer that? Yeah, looks like you want to answer. I'm happy.
No, I'm just excited by the question, but you're welcome to answer
Yeah,
it.
yeah. I mean, I think what I love about the working group that we put together last summer is we're all equally enthusiastic and excited about this. And we looked at 18 properties, really, honed it. And this is, I think we all agree, and our council agrees, this is just the first project, our first, major foray into affordable housing in Kenmore, but not the last. So we have other properties that were on that list that also ranked high, and those are kind of future year projects, I think, in our mind. So we're really excited about this one and moving forward with this one and learning and working together to make this happen, and then see which properties come next. But I know it's our council's first, top priority last year. This year, they'll set those priorities again at their retreat later this year. But I'm imagining affordable housing stays either at the top or near the top. It continues to be something that we work on with a lot of diligence at Kenmore. I love the question. Thanks. And other members of the working group, feel free to add other thoughts.
Well, I would just add, no pressure to this group, but you're going to be setting the bar and the standard. And if it's set really high and well, the city is going to want to keep pursuing it. And I guess if the opposite happens, we'll have to adjust. So keep that in mind.
This is Al again. Just one more comment. That my hat goes off. I think a strong commitment of the city, and the location, just a fantastic premier spot right there in the city corridor, center of the city. That commitment speaks volumes, I think, for the commitment the city has, as well as the partners, because that is typically you don't see that. It's usually more on the outskirts and things like that, but it's just really shows that commitment. Hats off again, and I'm gonna have to check out, but so thank you for letting me join you. Take care.
Thanks, Al. We appreciate it. Who else has questions? Becky, go ahead.
Yeah, hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, great. Becky McNell with Walsh Construction. I was curious about, are you going to release your criteria? Kind of, is there any scoring criteria or anything you're gonna have for how you weigh different proposals against each other? And I think sort of part B to that is the schedule that you mentioned and the desire to kind of start as quickly as possible. But did I see in the RFP that there is a desire to start 2023, but to finish no later than 2026?
That's correct. Yeah, the end of 2026 is kind of the outer window for completion of the project, given the funding that we're using for it. The ARPA funding has a window that the funds have to be spent by that time. And we do have a scoring rubric, and that's part of the working group will be the scorers, the working group that includes our partners at Arch, Lindsay and Elsa, as well as city staff from different departments. And that's a good question. I mean, yeah, we're certainly happy to talk about that, about the scoring. I think the RFP was intentionally written. I mean, it's all there. I mean, you can see what we're looking for, but I think, yeah, it matches closely the scoring rubric with the RFP and the requirements, and that particular section. We worked hard on that to help you think about your proposal and make sure you're kind of hitting the points that we were looking for. So, and there'd be nothing surprising in the scoring that wouldn't already be in the RFP. But happy to talk further. It's a great question. And we will be scoring. It does close on the 22nd of April, and we're going to get right to work that following week. So we'll be without delay, looking at proposals that come in and beginning that scoring process right away. So there won't be months and months of delay, as Lindsay mentioned in her remarks. We're hoping to bring this, make a decision, by early May and bring it to the Arch Advisory Committee, as well as the Arch Executive Board, and then to our council in Kenmore on June 20th. It's already set. So that's the schedule. So just to give you a sense of a little bit more about the time frame. Thank you for the question. And I see Colin has a question. Go ahead.
Hey there, thank you. And yeah, definitely applaud the efforts, and what a great opportunity for the city. I guess my question is about the development agreement process and kind of what that might look like. I know that the goal is to do at least 80 units of affordable housing, and there's some, sounds like the city wants to be flexible, but I guess I wondered if you could describe a little bit about what that process looks like, and then if there's any particular, design or density criteria or goals for the site that you could talk about.
Great. Brian, do you want to take that one? Yeah.
Sure. So we're thinking that the development agreement will run simultaneously with the review of the permits. And so we may be able to go straight to construction permits first without doing a land use permit with the development agreement. So a building permit and engineering permit and development agreement. But the development agreement process, it has 2 public hearings that will take before the city council at city council meetings. And during those public hearings, we'll show the project and identify, what the needs are. And then ultimately the city council will make the approval on the development agreement.
I never did, so.
But yeah, it will run concurrently with the building and construction permits. I don't really see the need for a land use permit.
Thanks, Brian. Are there any particular density or design elements that you would want any applicants to be aware of, or anything else to share on that? Or is it really about kind of working to produce the goals through, that are identified there?
Well, yes, that's a really good question. And thanks for bringing up the design elements. The density elements are pretty much outlined in the RFP. We're looking for the 80 to 100. And we've done some back of the napkin general calculations and come up with a number of about 95 units that could work. But, that's depends on what the mix is, the different unit mixes and whatnot, what that could look like. But that's the kind of density we're thinking about. The lot, it's a 22,000 square foot lot. I'm thinking that it'll probably be a wood building. So you could probably do a 5/1 or a 5/2, somewhere in that nature. So that's kind of setting your parameters on the size of the building. And then of course you could look at the different units and stuff that go into it. On the design side, we do have downtown design standards that should be considered. So we were really looking for something, nice and fits in with the community. Definitely with the other new construction. It doesn't have to be the same type of look, as the other constructions, but just really something that's modern and nice and meets the other buildings in the city.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Yeah.
I just have one quick follow-up while I am unmuted. I know that some of the report you're underway on some of the reports. Would you expect that a topographical survey would be provided? I didn't see one online, but yeah.
The site's flat. It's perfectly flat. We are doing the geotechnical analysis, but we do have some City of Kenmore GIS portals that we can share with the group that has topographical measurements on it, but you'll see that the site's perfectly flat.
All right, thank you.
Great questions, Colin. I see Kristen has her hand up.
Yeah, hi, I'm just wondering if the city of Kenmore has a density bonus for religious owned land?
We have a density bonus for all areas in our downtown, and it really just depends on the levels of affordability that you provide in your project, and that can be on residential property as well.
Great. Great question. What other questions do you have for us? I see Kurt's hand up.
Hi there.
Kurt, go ahead. Hi.
So with respect to the construction and building permit, is the design review then constituted through a city staff audit, or is it appealable to any legislative body?
Fortunately, it's all administrative. It's all city staff. We don't have any committees or other groups that look at the design submittal. Everything is appealable, but I've never received a appeal on a design in Kenmore, and that may be because of how nice their design. Who knows? But it's really nice to work for somewhere that the design review is administratively done. So I do appreciate that.
Excellent. Is the appeal body then a hearing examiner or council?
Well, it's either hearing examiner or the court. I have to look at the process again. I think it's going to be a type 2, which would be appealable to the hearing examiner. If it's a type 3, it'll be have to go through the hearing examiner, so it'll be appealable to the court. But I do believe it's administrative, appealable to the hearing examiner. But we will get that question looked into a little bit further and circulated back out to you.
Thank you.
Great questions. Keep them coming. What other questions do you have for us?
I have a quick question, Elizabeth Murphy from Plymouth, again, about the pre-development funds. I think you mentioned Enterprise Community Partners has committed to a certain level of funds, but I wasn't sure if there had been an amount announced yet.
Well, they are helping us with the due diligence report, paying for those for us. So I don't know that we've totaled that up, but that's what their commitment is. And they've been wonderful partners and very helpful in our work to get the RFP ready and get those reports done in advance so that you have those as soon as possible. But we did decide to release the RFP just to give as long a window as possible for you all to start the work and have this session and get things going, and then we'll post those as soon as they're finished. But some of those reports that are underway, I know the market analysis is pretty close, just a couple weeks, a week or 2 away, probably from completion, and that's a good example of a report that we'll post as soon as we have it. And on the city's site, we have a new web page for this work, and I'm sure you probably all have had a chance to look at that. But if you haven't, you can go to the City of Kenmore website and search on affordable housing development proposal, and it will come up. There's a special web page for this work and all those reports, the RFP, the FAQ from today, this recording will all be posted on that page. So it's all in one place. We created that just to make it easier for all of you to find everything.
Thank you. That's really helpful. I guess I'm also just wondering about the design phase. Just like others have mentioned, it's going to be a pretty quick timeline to get a building design together. So I guess I'm just wondering if that pre-development money could potentially assist with that as well.
We have not identified pre-development funding that can assist with that. As Stephanie mentioned, the pre-development money that we talked about will be utilized for the third-party reporting and the due diligence reports that will be provided to you. That includes a phase 1 market study and soils testing, as well as updated title reports, etc. So basically the due diligence documents that you would need in order to apply for the other public funders is what that funding would be paying for, not really for any schematic designs or any
Got it.
development.
Thank you.
Great questions, everyone. What else? Oh, Kurt's got his hand up. Kurt.
Bridge housing again. You mentioned that geotech is a work in progress. Might that be available by the end of this procurement, or is it going to come afterwards?
Sure, we do have a old geotech report that was done in 2013 that we can make available. We do have an updated report that we have commissioned, and that will be available in the next 4 weeks approximately. And as Stephanie mentioned, we will post that up on the website, and it will be available for you to review as soon as it is ready.
Wonderful, thank you.
Great question.
I do have the answer to Kurt's previous question.
Great.
So the process itself will be a type 2, which means it's an administrative process. That process is appealable to the hearing examiner. And so if you get a SEPA appeal or a design appeal, it'll go to the hearing examiner. And then the council decision will be based on the hearing examiner's decision on the appeal, as well as the underlying permit.
Excellent, thank you.
Thanks, Brian. What else? What other questions can we answer today for you?
I think we did a good job, Stephanie.
No, I don't see any other questions. So one more minute. I know sometimes it can be hard to ask, but we want to make sure we give you a chance to do that. We'll wait another minute or so. Anybody who's shy, please, we're here to help. Jeannie.
Hi, I'm Jeannie Galloway. I'm with Bastyr University. I'm one of the vice presidents over here, and I wanted to wait to the very end. I didn't want to take up anyone's developer questions, but we were one of the groups that was offered as kind of an example of the types of community projects that might be considered by developers. And just to let you know, we're definitely open to not only being a sole participant in whatever project you have, but we'd be really willing to connect with any other community projects in the region to put together something really important for the community, and that would help your property get this bid. So if you'd like to talk to us, you can just reach out to Stephanie or anyone on the city staff, and they can put you in touch with Bastyr, and we'd be glad to talk about who we are and what we do.
Thank you, Jeannie. Really appreciate your partnership. Bastyr and Kenmore are close partners, and you mean a lot to us. So thanks for being here. All right, last call. Any last questions? And if you think of a question after, just please reach out to us. The webpage, our contact information is there. Our email addresses are all in the RFP. So please don't hesitate if you're wondering anything or you have any questions you didn't think of today. We're happy to help you. The RFP will close on April 22nd. So we want you to put in a proposal. We hope that you're as enthusiastic about this as we are, and we're just really excited to see where this goes. And thank you for joining us today and asking great questions and listening as we talked about the vision for this work. It's really important, and it's all of our job to address affordable housing and the crisis that we're in, and Kenmore is wanting to do our part. And this is one way that we're doing that. And again, I want to close by thanking our City Council for their leadership and support of this issue, and Arch, our partners from the beginning of this work last year, and so grateful. Enterprise Community Partners for their help with the due diligence reports. And we have Bastyr on the line, the YMCA partners who came forward with early ideas about the community space. Just grateful to everyone for this. Takes all of us to pull off a project like this and to make this happen. And so thank you for being interested in this work and for being here. And just let us know if we can help you at all over the coming weeks as you're putting proposals together. And I just appreciate everyone on the call. So thanks so much. And we'll again be this is recorded, so this will be posted, and everyone will have access to it soon. Great. And with that, thank you very much, and have a great